Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with Paint and Crafty. If you're new to my page and you have found your way here, I'm glad you have. And those who are returning, I'm glad you're here as well too. I have another one of my drawings for the Trick or Treat series that I'm going to be teaching you step-by-step instructions of how to create and then adding a little bit of watercolor whimsy at the end. And you're going to want to watch my channel to find all of the Trick or Treat series. I also wanted to point out I do have a Ko-fi channel. For those who'd like to have a tracer, you can go over there and join my sketchbook membership. Plus, it's a small way to support my page. So grab your pencils and your papers and let's have some fun. Let's go ahead and start with the drawing process. This is a 5x6 piece of paper, and I'm going to be working on the Canson brand watercolor paper. It's 140 pound, and that's the watercolor paper I like. The links are all in the description for the materials that I'll be using today, so you'll be able to find them there easily. And what I like to do when I first begin my drawing process, especially for these little detailed drawings, I do like to draw a little bit of a grid system on my paper. So I find the middle and I draw a line down here, and then I find the middle coming down this way and draw. So first I start with a T, and then if I want to add a few more details, I can go ahead and add the additional grids. And for this little puppy, it's a great idea to add these little grids. It's just going to help you be able to size your drawing, get an idea of how big I'm drawing the elements. So I highly recommend it. Now, it doesn't have to be this size. You can draw bigger, and as long as you're using the grid system, it's going to work. Or you can even draw smaller if you'd like. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with his little face right here. And if you notice on this little paper, I do have it gridded off. I'm hoping it shows up on the camera. His little face is going to happen right here in this quadrant, right there. So I'm going to start, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to make a slight little angle here at the bottom because his head is just ever so slightly tilting. So I'm just going to come across to this angle. I'm going to come over here. So that's going to create the bottom of his face. And then I'm going to do this U shape that comes up and over. So I'm going to come up here on this U shape, going to come up and over, rounded it off a little bit at the top, coming on over and coming at this angle here. So I'm heading towards that end right over here. I always do a clarification where I say, just because I drew it this way the first time doesn't mean I'm going to be able to get it to look exactly, and it doesn't have to. But this just gives you an idea of how I drew it originally, and it's always going to look slightly different because I can't draw it the same two times in a row. I just can't. All right, so I have his little head on there. Let's go ahead and put his little ears on. So his little ears, if you look here, I have them drawn at a slight angle first, and then they're going to come across and then down and touch the side of his face. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to draw this ear coming up first just to give it a little dimension, and then I'm going to come at an angle like this, and then I'm going to come down. It's going to go a little past his cheek of his face, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve. It just adds a little bit more interest if you can give it a little bit more curve instead of just a straight line. And then I'm going to come across, and then I'm going to come up and touch wherever it might look good to touch his face. And I'm going to stop right there. And on this one, need to make sure I have some room to put his little hat. I'm going to come at an angle first. So this one's going to angle this direction. We're going to come up. Then I'm going to go flat for just a little ways. Then I'm going to curve it again, give it some dimension. So I'm going to curve it out, this little ear out, and then I'm going to come back and then touch his little head. Okay, so he's already has a little bit of more dimension to his head. Let's go ahead and pop his little hat in. This is going to be just a candy corn little shape up here. So I'm going to come in, how much ever room you have. We're not doing any letters or anything up there, so you can fill your little space up, whatever might look good on yours. And I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to draw just a little bit of a swirl on the top just to give it a little extra dimension, and I am going to pop like a little pom-pom shape here in the middle. You can do whatever you'd like on yours, add all the character you want your little puppy dog trick-or-treater to have. Now I'm going to go ahead and put his little muzzle in next, so I'm going to put this little piece in next, and I'm going to come here off to my cheek, maybe look here, there, so give it a little tick mark. I'm going to erase this line here because this won't probably be the center of his face anymore because he's got a little bit of a tilt. So I'm just going to put a little line here and a little tick mark here, and then I'm going to look at my negative space. Does this area look similar to this area over here? And I can tell I need to probably make this one a little bit in farther so my little spaces look slightly even. Okay, and this is just going to be that rainbow shape that comes across like so. Okay, there we go. And now let's go ahead and stick his little nose in. And that's just like a little soft triangle shape. It's got little rounded edges on my triangles, just like that. Now let's go ahead and put his little muzzle in. And his muzzle, I drew it where my line is straight down first, like that. And then it's going to come at an angle. So you got a little V like this. You're going to have that happen. And then I'm going to do a flat line this way and a flat line this way, and then I'm going to go up again. So I'm just creating this little bit of a dimensional face on him, and then he's got those little smile marks there on the edge, and there's his little muzzle. I'll be adding a few little dots in with my micron pen for a little bit of character. Now I need to look here, where's the center of my nose, and this is where I'm going to build the center of my face off of. So here's the center of my nose. I can just do a light line that's going to be coming at an angle because his face is at an angle. That helps me determine where the center of my face is. So now I'm going to go ahead and do this little stripe down the center of his face. It's going to be wider here at the top and then curve in slightly and touch his little muzzle. So I'm going to come here, down and touch, over here, down and touch. Okay, and then I can erase this little line. Oh, these are my favorite erasers to use, by the way. These high polymer erasers by Pentel. They are a great eraser. They're not going to leave any marks on your paper when you erase, and these are the ones I really like to use. And you can find these pretty much anywhere they sell pencil and paper. At your local stores, but there is a link in my description as well if you're looking to buy them online. Now let's go ahead and put his little eyes in. Now I'm not too close to this little center area where I just drew because I want to put his little mask in. I'm going to need to make sure my eyes are out just a little bit farther. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just put a little circle here first so I can draw my mask. Okay, so that gives me an idea of where my mask is going to go. And this shape here, it's just going to be narrower. It's kind of like a little horseshoe shape if you think of it that way. It's going to be narrower here. It's going to get a slightly larger and come around is the shape I did for his mask. But I'm going to come up here on my edge, come around. I'm going to be heading up and then down and then back in again. So it's kind of a little horseshoe shape. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to duplicate just the shape I just drew. Just like that, on that side. And I'm going to come here. Now I know how much room I have in between this one. I'm going to kind of look on this side and kind of determine that's about where my other one is. So that's going to give me a guide of how close to bring my next shape in on this side, because I kind of want them to look a little bit similar. Now that one got a little too fat. I need to make it a little bit narrower because I want it to match whatever shape I put over here. So I'm going to come a little longer. I drew it a little longer and a little skinnier. So I want to duplicate that shape. Okay, so I can take a look here and I can come in and make this another shape here. And now I need to take a look. Do they look similar? I'm not thinking they look similar enough. So I'm going to go ahead and move this piece in ever so slightly to his nose. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger to kind of match. And then that's going to open up this space too. That's the great thing about drawing in pencil. You can switch them and you don't have to stay with that original shape you drew. Draw a little lighter than I'm drawing. It'll erase a lot easier. I usually draw a little heavier just so to make sure that you can see it. And then I'm going to take a look here. I might have to tweak this ever so slightly. Again, make this a little bit more rounded. But if you draw lighter, when it comes time to erasing it, you're not going to have any line work there. Now I can go ahead and put his eyes in. Those little dots originally were just a guide to help me kind of look at how I drew it. Now his eyes, I did this little oval spot, and I ended up putting the eye, the pupil end at the bottom of the eye. So I'm going to just do this little oval like that here and here, and I will put the black part in when I do my line mark. Oh my gosh, he is so cute. And then we need to put this little band across his nose to be holding his little mask. So I'm going to come up over his nose like so, and this little center area will be erased. I ran out of lead for this pencil, so I'm just using the eraser because I have an eraser in this one, but no lead, and I have a lead in this one, but really no eraser. So I'm kind of jockeying between the two pencils. Okay, just like that. Isn't he so cute? Now let's go ahead and put this little neck piece on, and this is just a little ruffle. And how this looks, a nice way to do this to give it a little bit more dimension is to come out a little ways on this side, come out a little ways on this side, and then it's at an angle, so it's not straight up and down. And then we're just going to do this ruffle all the way across, and just up and down like a little sawtooth shape like that. And then we're going to do the next one, and you might want to do just a very light curve like this. You could actually do this curve part too when you're doing this one. Now I'm going to come underneath here. I'm going to go a little shorter this time. So this one will be inside of my very first one. And then I can do the jagged tooth part right there. It does help to have that little bit of line so you get a little bit of curve when you draw that. And you can also do that for your very first one so it doesn't end up being so straight. And that can be very helpful. Now let's go ahead and we're going to draw his pants. Now his leg seam is right here on the middle. I'm going to put a little dot right here so I know how high to put that little V there. But I'm just going to do out a little ways. It's going to come out to my side just a little ways so it's not so straight up and down. So I want it a little ways this way. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go a little ways this way, but I want to make sure I have enough room to put his little trick or treat sack. So I'm going to come at a little angle here. Okay, and here's my little V for his legs. So I'm going to come over and then do my little V here. And then this one's going to be this way. And I want my cuffs to be similar across. An easy way to check is to put your pencil down, put your finger right where it is, and then come over here and to see if it's a similar size. And if they're similar enough or close enough, then you can count it good. But it does help to measure just a little bit to see if you are similar in size. I'm going to go ahead and erase this line here and straighten this up just a little bit. Now there is a little bit of a cuff here at the bottom, so I'm just going to add just a little bit of a tiny line here to add his cuff. Okay, and let's go ahead and add his pocket. I'm going to go ahead and erase this line over here, part of his pants, so I can build my pocket in there. And that is just going to be a simple line. Now you need to have enough room to be able to stick a kitty in there. If you want to stick a kitty or whatever animal or candy, if you wanted to put candy in his pocket, that would be cute too. To stuff his little pockets full of candy would be cute. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to do a longer pocket and up like that. And I will be writing boo in there with my pens, and then I'm going to do my little kitty. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to do an upside down U shape like this. There's going to be my little kitty head. Maybe I can make it a little bit wider to take up my whole space so I have a little bit more room for a face, because I want to put the tail on this end. Okay, so I have my little kitty head, and then I'm going to draw my little ears off to the side. Kitties have a little bit smaller ears, like so. And I'm going to put his nose just above the little top part of the pocket and just do a little line down. So it looks like he's tucked inside of there. Now you can open this area up just on the inside to make his ears more open, like so. And then you can add just the tiniest bit of inside of his ear. Oops, I got to do a triangle, not a square. Copy my shape. There he is. And I'll have little eyes that come like this. And then there'll be I'll put my little pupil mark down there at the end. And I'm just going to take his little tail and I'm going to curl it around here. Just like so. If it works to have it, I got a little thin there. I better kind of thicken it up. His tail was looking too skinny there. Coming around there and doing it like that. There, that's a much better tail. It's a little bit thicker. He's right on inside of there. And then I will go ahead and do my letters a little creative. I'm going to do little spirals for my O's like this. And around we go for the boo. Cute. Kind of looks like little eyeballs to me. Now let's go ahead and put his little arms on. So now on this side is where this little sack is going to be. So I'm just going to take a look here. This would be his shoulder. So I'm going to come down off to this side. Probably not any lower than this next line here because I do have to have room for a sack. And let's see, we can come out with his arm and then up like so. Might have to make this go out just a little bit more to be able to hang on to the sack. Let's put this more at an angle, like so. I do have to get the sack in there, and this would be his armpit area. Got to come up at an angle and then down. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to put a little cuff on him, and I usually make the cuffs a little larger than his arms just to give it a little bit more dimension. I'm going to draw my trick-or-treat basket in or my trick-or-treat sack before I put his hand on. So I'm just going to come down. I'm going to make this a longer sack. Up we go. And then to give it that little bit of a sack idea, I did a little sawtooth top to give it that little sack area. And I'll be writing trick or treat here on his little basket. So now let's go ahead and put the strap up. So the strap would come up, it would be touching here and then coming around. So now this tells me where I need to put my hand, if I'm going to see any arm or if I'm just going to be seeing his little paw. It looks like I'm just going to be seeing his paw. So I'm just going to come down and do a loop like that, come across, and then all I will do is put two little or three little lines there to indicate a paw. So it's pretty short. Now if you want to make it so you see some of the arm, we could make this a little bit shorter. Come over here, make this a little bit shorter, and then we could actually put an arm in, which might look good, just to have a tiny bit of an arm showing there, up and over. Then the 3 marks for his paw. Perfect. Okay, and then trick or treat, however that will roll in there. Let's come over to this side and do this next little arm. So it's gonna come up, here's the armpit, gonna come down, and he's holding like a little jack-o'-lantern, I don't know what I would call that, little jack-o'-lantern fun stick. We'll come down here, take a look about how wide you make this arm, and that'll give you an idea there. Whoops, that's getting too skinny. And we're gonna come out, and then let's put the little cuff on. There's little buttons on these cuffs too. Maybe I'll need to make this one a little wider. I like adding these little cuffs on. They look a darling, I think. And so we're gonna come out with his little hand, our little arm, and then I'm just gonna do that little round kind of half circle or a circle, and then make the little 3 paws. Now I can determine how I wanna put my stick on. So this is his hand, so I know in order to get that in his hand, it's probably gonna have to come at a little bit of an angle. Coming on up, like so. And then I can put my jack-o'-lantern in there. Now I don't have a lot of room this time to put my jack-o'-lantern in there. Maybe it's only going to be a part of a jack-o'-lantern, or maybe it's going to be a taller jack-o'-lantern this time to get my face in there. So this time it might only be just a partial face. Here we go, a little nose, a little eye there. And I just did a little smile face on it. Give him a little pumpkin top like so. And I just gave it a little ruffle underneath this part. I did do these little half circles in the eyes just to give it a little bit of character, like that. And I will be doing little spirals that'll come off my jack-o'-lantern. So I didn't get a full jack-o'-lantern in there this time because of the way my arms ended up. So depending on how you draw it, I could still make this a little bit fatter, and maybe that would look better to have it a little bit fatter. I still got both of my eyes in there, which is cute. And then we got the stick. So however it looks right for that stick direction depends on what your little jack-o'-lantern is going to look like. So let's go ahead and stick his little legs in. Now when you do legs, it's knowing that this would be a calf area, so this would be a little wider, and then it's going to go slightly narrower to the end there. So I have short little legs in here, so I'm just going to do a little one like that on this side. And come over here and do the same thing, like that. And then I'm just gonna do kind of like a little round plain shoe. So it's gonna have a heel, the back of my heel, come down, much room I have here, and then just a rounded toe like that. And I'm gonna do the same over here. So I'm gonna do that connected across, put my little heel in. And if you need to, if it goes off the paper and it doesn't show up all the way, that's fine too. Okay, so there it is, and it'll have a little detail of little ribbons on there, or little ties at the top there. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some stripes on there, so I know I'm gonna have black shoes. So I do want this one to be white down here, and then the next stripe will be black, then it'll be white, and then the top one by his pants will be black. So I'm gonna put a dot there to make sure I know that those ones are gonna be black. So I'm gonna do white, then black, white, and then black at the top. There we go, all done. Now this one I'm going to be adding a few of the crayon, the color crayon white again in the background. I really like that look. It's really kind of a fun resist look. It's a great one. If you haven't drawn the very first one in the Trick or Treat series, there is a one that I did of a fox, and she is very adorable, and she'd be on the sequence on the YouTube channel where you can find her to draw her. This might be a good point too to mention that I do have a Ko-fi page, and on my Ko-fi page I do have a membership there. It's called the Sketchbook membership, and with that one you can join my membership, and with there you can get the tracers for all of the little ones that I do for my YouTube. I know not everyone likes to draw, but you like to paint, so it's an option to be able to create without having to do all the drawing. I also include all my Facebook Live ones there too, so it's a great little membership for the sketchbook, so you might be interested in doing that. Now I'm going to be using a 03 and a 01 of my Micron pens, and I like using the Micron pens because they are an archival ink and they will stay put when I put my watercolor over them. I just had to buy a new set, so I have to get this one open. Let's see, find my 01. Anything smaller than a 01 seems to get really roughed up and doesn't do well, doesn't fare well on a watercolor paper because the surface has a slight bump to it. But the 01 is a nice size for the small. The 01 and the 03 are mostly the sizes that I use for this size of drawing. Now that was the 1. I'm going to go ahead and use the 3 for the major big parts on the outside, and then I will come in with my 01 to do all the little fine detail. And I'll just rotate back and forth amongst those pens as I'm creating this little design. This is a great time to take a look at your pencil lines and decide if that's how you really want them, because once you put the ink on, it's there and it's going to stay put. So you want to take a look before you do all your ink line. You don't have to stay exact with your pencil. It's a great time to switch it or change it up as you're going along. So take a little bit of time, take a look at your drawing, make sure you want your lines where they are drawn, and then proceed and have fun. And you're going to do your doodle work. I like to do some of my doodle work before I'm all done, but it's fine to add a little bit of space, not to cover everything in with your pen work, and that gives you some options at the end as well. So you don't have to make all your decisions at the beginning. You can make them at the end as well. I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up as you watch me do this line work, and then we'll come back. I did include a little bit of the crayon resist in the background on my stars and on the moon. It looks great to add that detail. Well, we got the drawing all finished. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of watercolor. And since I don't know where people begin with the stage, I'm just going to repeat some things. If you already know this, you can just fast forward. But when you get a watercolor set, you're going to want to make a watercolor card that shows what your watercolors look like on paper. So just take a piece of the watercolor paper that you're going to be using regularly and just create a little color chart, because the colors look so differently in your tray because they look so much darker. This will give you a better idea of what colors you're going to have in your palette. So let's go ahead and start with our watercolor. Now, watercolor, you usually have 2 little bins. You're going to have one that's clean, one that you rinse your brush out. And I always have a little piece of paper towel here. And today I'm going to be using a Princeton round brush, a number 6. Round brushes have a little bit of a belly here in the middle, so they hold a little bit more water. And this is a small little drawing, so I'm going to be using a 6 for most of the detail. I can bump up to a little bit bigger size in the background if I want to. So I'm going to start out with my colors. I'm going to start light and then work my way dark. That is how you usually work watercolor, is you always start that direction. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a candy corn type of look to my painting. So I'm going to have some of the candy corn colors on the hat and on his little ruffle. On the pocket, I'm going to be doing a little bit of that look too, and on his trick-or-treat basket. So I'm going to start with that. So I'm going to mix up some yellow off to my side, kind of a bright chicky color. This is about the consistency of tea is what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to have a bright orange on there as well. The candy corn colors are white, yellow, and white, orange, and yellow, with the orange being in the middle and the yellow being at the bottom, and the white is at the top, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and start this process. So I'm going to start with my yellow here at the bottom, and I'm going to come right here and wiggle this in here. Now watercolor paper, the way it absorbs water and the way it floats your color is that your color is going to stay right where your paper is wet and where the area, where the color will not move into an area that is dry. So I'm going to put my two colors here. I'm going to tap this orange in here. So since this is wet down here, my orange will flow down into my yellow, but that's kind of the look I'm going for. If I wanted it to be totally separate, I'd have to give my yellow a chance to dry before I put my orange on. Now I am going to come in here and pick up just a little bit of that orange so it doesn't float too far down into my yellow. Okay, let's continue on with that look. So I'm going to take some of my yellow and I'm going to start right up here, dabbing this in. These little round brushes with those nice point, you want a nice point on your brush, and that will just help make this go so much easier. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit of my orange again, like I did up the top here. Put this right in. These do eventually wear out, even though they're in a synthetic brush. When the tip starts going bad on them, then it's time to replace your brush. But they'll last you quite a long time. There's not a lot of extra care on these little synthetic brushes, which is nice. It's not like having to wash acrylic paint out of your brush. Even if you get a little bit of your paint left inside of this brush, it washes out fairly easy just by rinsing it in water. Okay, so I've got that little area done. Let's go ahead and add some yellow on this side. My little tray is clicking. Sorry, I'm sure that's kind of a loud noise in the camera. And then I'm going to pick up some of my orange and put it on this side. This is called a kind of a dry into the wet color. So I'm going to put most of my color here on my dry side, but as soon as it hits that wet area over there, it's going to want to travel all the way across. Now this one dries fairly fast, this paper. I'm going to come over here since I've got some orange mixed up already, and I'm just going to put that on my jack-o'-lantern. Put it inside of his eyes. He turned out so cute. I will probably end up using like a little bit of red orange for the next layer on my jack-o'-lantern. Put that in there. And let's work a little bit on the pocket of the guy here. So I'm going to do this the candy corn color again too. So I'm going to do this the yellow on the top, and then that's kind of fairly wet, and then I'm going to pick up my orange and I'm going to start at the bottom and pull it towards my yellow, and then as soon as it hits that yellow, it's going to want to blend up in there. Okay, you always start your way light and then work your way dark. Now I'm going to pick up some more of that yellow and I'm going to do my next layer. So basically on watercolor, you're painting the shadows more or less. And I'm going to come in here and add a next layer, and you're going to be able to see how that's just going to deepen the colors and add that next layer. I'm not looking to cover up everything I just put on. If I have some area for it to show, I'm going to want some of that light color because that will be my highlights. And I'm just going to come in here and tap a little bit more in. Those two will sit and kind of blend together. So let's do the same thing down below the next one. So I'm using less water this time. And I'm going to come right in here and tap this in. And again, I'm not trying to cover up everything because that first layer is my brights. I'm going to come in and pick up that orange, less water this time, and add that next darker layer. And when this dries, I can go in and do a third layer and even add another darker color, like up in here into the peaks where there would be a darker shadow, and underneath his chin where it would be darker. Now that I have this here, I should go ahead and put a little bit of line of this yellow here too. And I'm going to let that dry just a little bit before I put in any more of the orange. I'm going to come on this side and add a little bit more yellow to my sack. That side. Didn't take it all the way to the middle this time. I'm going to take my dark, add less water this time. I'm going to tap it on my brush to make sure I don't have a ton of water in there. Right around there, add a little bit of a shadow. I still have some of this on my brush, so I'm going to come here and add a little bit more color. Watercolor does dry lighter, so when it might look like it's dark enough when it's wet, and then when you go to let it dry just a tiny bit, it's going to dry slightly lighter. Okay, I'm going to pick up some more of my yellow. Tap it on in there. Cute. I think I'm just going to continue a little bit. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of that orange, and I'm going to tap it at this collar line just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more depth at the top. And that color is still a little bit wet, the yellow is, so that orange is going to just blend right on down. I'm going to pick up a little bit of a red color, let's see, and make my own like orange red. So I have some orange red here, and then I'm going to add those two together. So I'm going to make my own orangey color red. Stop it so it doesn't keep on clicking. All right, so I'm going to do this color here. I'm going to put that on his little jumpsuit area that he's wearing. So this is another shade of orange, but adding a little bit of red to it. You can always mix your own colors as well. And I often do that. Popping this in here again. Just going to take a look at what we got going on here. I'm going to probably I'm going to speed this up at this point as you watch me put my layers on, and I'm just going to vary back and forth, starting light, then usually adding a medium, and then going dark. Probably come back in when I get ready to do his face up here, talking a little bit about those colors, but I'm just going to speed this video up now as you watch me do this part. On this painting, I was using the Marie Professional Grade Watercolor, but in my opinion, when you're first beginning out, it's better just to spend a tiny bit more on your watercolor paper, and the Canson isn't all that expensive, than it is to spend a lot on your watercolor paints. You're going to need some time to figure out how watercolor works on paper, how much water to add, how much tint to add, and how it all works together. So my advice is buy the paper, and then just buy the paints you can afford. Now my face has dried somewhat. I want to put a little bit of soft cheek on him, a little kind of a little rosy cheek, and I'm going to mix a color that is just a really light coral look, but I want to make sure that my cheek is completely dry. And this is very much watered down. Going to be a watered down color, a coral color, and I'm going to give it a tap on my paper towel, see where I am for coloration, and then I'm going to come right in here and I'm going to tap this color in with just the tip of my brush, and I'm not trying to make a complete oval or solid apple-ish kind of shape. I'm going to rinse my brush out, and then I'm going to take most of my water out of my brush, and then I'm going to come in here and soften the edges of my cheek and removing and lifting some of my color that's on there. So I'm just creating this very soft little rosy look on his cheek, but you want to wait until your underbase color that you might have put on is completely dry. So let's go ahead and mix a little bit of sky color for him. I'm going to go ahead and remove this part right here on my tray. Watercolor, you can use it, keep on using it in your tray. Even if it's dry, you can still pick it up. It's usually a good idea to have it on a slick surface if you can, because then you can keep on using your color. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up a bright blue color, probably in here, and I'm going to mix a sky color for myself, a midnight or dark sky. So I'm going to choose a bright blue. The first one I chose was a little too purpley, so I'm going to choose this brighter blue. And I switched brushes. I'm up to my number 10, the Princeton brush. These are the Princeton Velvet Touch brush. It's still a round tip brush though I'm using. And I'm mixing kind of a fair amount of color because I want enough to be able to do my background. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit of black. And the black in this set is kind of a warmish black. So I'm just creating a nice warm, dark blue sky for a night sky. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start in one corner and work my way over as I'm crossing over. So I'm going to just start right here. This is where you're going to start seeing your color crayon that you put in your background. You're going to see that pop up. And there it is. It's working the magic. Now when I do my backgrounds, I'm not looking for a complete even tone. So I'm changing the direction of my brush. I'm not getting I'm not spending a lot of time on the edges of where I actually have already done, because I don't want to accidentally lift any of that color, and I don't want my blue to get so strong inside of those other areas. So I want it to stay in my wet area, out of my, I don't want a blue puppy when I get done. So I'm going to try to skate close, move fast, and work my color around there. So I'm going to come in, even though this is a number 10, it still can get into these smaller areas and just be fine. Come right in there. Now I might pick up a little bit more of that bright blue and put it over it. This is kind of getting a little, I might have mixed a little too much dark into this one, so I'm thinking I should have probably added a little bit more bright blue on there. But now that my background is wet, I can pick up some of that bright blue that I used for my background. Let's see, I can pick up some of that, add a little bit more water into that, and I can just come right on top of it and do another blend. So I could still let some of that base color show that I originally put on and not try to get rid of it all. And that will just add to the depth of my picture. And I don't tape mine down. You could tape your pictures down if you wanted to. So my edges will curl up just a tiny bit while I'm working on it, but I'm okay with that part. But if you would like your paper to stay all the way flat, then you could always use a little bit of washi tape and tape your edges down before you start your drawing and your painting process. If you do that, I recommend to tape it onto a surface that you can move it. So if you need to stop and start, you can move your drawing out of the way. So if you're gonna do it on, you could tape it on a piece of cardboard or a masonite board or something that you could move around easily. Okay, I think that's cute. As I was doing this one, I kind of noticed I forgot some area. I forgot to add the little bit of the golden on the underneath the pumpkin. So I'm just gonna pop that in just a tiny bit. I don't have so much blue there. I not have to worry about it so much. And then I'm gonna call him pretty much done. I have a little bit of pen work I wanna do yet, and I'm gonna do that in my Uniball pen. Uniball pens have a great white ink in there. They will truly stay white when you put it on, after you put it on your surface. This is a great pen if you want to strengthen your whites that you have. You could come in, and if you lose the white on your eyes, you can add that little bit of white in there. If you lose it on your nose, you can add a little bit there too on your highlights. And you can just come in and add it here and there. So I'm going to add some little highlights on my little fringe, the bright whites. So now it's not necessarily just a watercolor drawing. This would be more considered a mixed media project because I'm adding this little bit of ink in here as well. And I added some pen work, and I like to use, I like to add all these little extra little details. I like doing the little detail work. Let's see, maybe a little line on his nose there. This is all personal preference of where you want to add things. Usually I save the white as kind of like a little bit of jewelry look. I don't sprinkle it everywhere. I add it just a little bit of area here and there just to bring out a little bit of pop of color. I'm going to come in my background and add just a few little dots. It is kind of early in the process to do the background, but I'm going to go ahead and try it. If it's too wet, your ink can spread out when you put it down, but that would probably look okay too. I'm just adding a few little white stars in the background. Okay, and then I'm going to call him done. Now when I do these, they never look exactly the same every time I do them. They always turn out slightly different. This is a good time too if you want to sign your work, to choose a spot to sign your work. And let's see, maybe I will run my name here off to the side. You can do it in pencil or you can do it in pen, however you want to do it, however you feel comfortable doing it. Let's see, it didn't show up in my pencil with that background, so let's see if I do it with my pen, if that shows up better. Yeah, it does. Okay, so I'm going to sign it there. I'll sign this one too. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, that you learned something new, and that you continue on and practice with me doing these little whimsical drawings and simple watercolor, that you will keep on trying it. If you have comments, leave me a comment in there if you think if it's a helpful tutorial, if you think I need to do anything different or how I can help you more, let me know. Thanks for watching so much. And I wanted to also point out that I do have a Ko-fi page that you can come on, and I do have a sketchbook subscription there, where if you're just interested in doing the painting, but you're not so much into drawing, there are the tracers that are available for there. Plus, you can always buy me a coffee if you want to while you're there. Thanks so much for joining in, and I look forward to sharing another video with you.